Within the past 2 decades, there has been an exponential rise in the use of opioids in North America, Europe, and Australia, contributing to the opioid crisis. Opioids are a class of drugs used primarily for the management of pain. When administered at the right dose, opioids can act on opioid receptors found within the body to reduce the feeling of acute to chronic pain. People can get opioids from physicians, pharmacists, illicit drug traffickers, and sometimes even their friends and families. Due to the euphoric state that opioids provide, everyone who takes opioids is at risk of becoming tolerant, increasing the risk of dependence, addiction, and overdose. Once tolerance has occurred, an increased amount or dose of opioids is required to maintain the previous level of pain relief. This may increase an individual's usage of the opioid and result in addiction or overdose. Since the late 1990s, there has been a surge in the frequency of opioid misuse globally, having a major impact on health, society, economy, and safety. This has been accompanied with a rise in opioid prescription abuse, dependence disorders, and opioid-related mortality rates. Interestingly, this crisis could date back to the year 1996 when U.S. pharma company Purdue Pharma introduced OxyContin to the market. Within just 4 years, Purdue Pharma grew its net worth from just $48 million to $1.1 billion. But wait, OxyContin wasn't any better than other opioid drugs on the market at the time. Instead, the promotion campaigns of Purdue Pharma took over the narcotics market by storm. Purdue Pharma trained its sales representatives to advocate the message that the risk of addiction was less than 1%. Moreover, they conducted numerous pain management and speaking training sessions with the intent to sway physicians' prescribing patterns. In 2012, there were over 259 million opioid prescriptions filled in the United States, with more than 1 in 20 prescriptions filled for non-medical reasons, making opioids the most commonly prescribed drug. Coupling the leniency seen with prescribed opioid medications and the marketing strategies of Purdue Pharma, the opioid crisis essentially grew out of control. In addition, a complementary rise in fatality rates was observed as a result of opioid overdose. Since its discovery in the 1960s, it is well established that naloxone can reverse the effects of an opioid overdose. In fact, patients who were co-prescribed opioids for chronic pain and naloxone had 63% less visits to the hospital within 1 year compared to those who received opioid prescriptions alone. Naloxone is a competitive antagonist possessing a higher affinity for the mu receptors than opioids. It is highly effective at reversing opioid overdose in an emergent situation. Naloxone was originally available in injectable forms, including intravenous and intramuscular, and were shown to reverse opioid overdoses. Until 2014, the injectable formulation was intended to be administered by trained medical professionals only. There are many limitations that can arise from the injectable naloxone. Firstly, needles can be intimidating for laypersons in non-medical settings. Secondly, needles pose a risk of injury and contraction of bloodborne diseases. Thirdly, these medications are only approved to be used by trained medical personnel. Therefore, new routes of delivery are warranted. With the rise of the opioid epidemic, more efforts have been put in place to expand the access of naloxone. This led to the production of the FDA-approved intramuscular naloxone autoinjector known as a Viso and intranasal naloxone spray known as Narcan. Both these medications could be administered to overdose patients by non-medical persons. Systematic reviews show that Aviso and Narcan were really easy to use by more than 90% of participants who had never trained on how to use either drug. A similar opioid crisis was occurring in Europe, and Monday Pharma, an affiliate of Purdue Pharma, recently obtained approval for its intranasal naloxone formulation under the name of Nixoid. Similar to the US FDA-approved Narcan, a Phase 1 clinical trial showed that the European Nixoid nasal spray was also similar to the already existing naloxone injectables. Despite these exciting results, Monday Pharma had gained unpopular media attention. There was growing concern regarding the rising prices of naloxone and how pharmaceutical companies like Purdue Pharma and Monday Pharma are capitalizing on this epidemic. One person said, "You're in the business of selling medicine that causes addiction and overdoses. And now you're in the business of selling medicine that treats addiction and overdoses?" Almost 10 years ago, the popular naloxone injectable was sold by Hospira for $62, but costs $142 today. The newer and easier-to-administer medications like Narcan cost $150, and Aviso increased from $690 to $4,500. Even Nixoid is receiving backlash for pricing its formulation at $34 compared to the standard $23 injectable. However, its prices aren't that far off from what's already seen in the US. The medical advancement to improve naloxone delivery to opioid overdose users is bittersweet. There is growing concern that Monday Pharma is cashing in on a cure, because apparently lives are only worth saving when people can afford it.